You are listening to the Earplug Podcast Network, a Fanboys Inc. production.
Can you dig it, nigga, sucker? Ooh, yeah! We boo you because you're both a couple of world-class international a-holes.
Welcome to the Faces and Heels podcast, and we hope all of you listeners are starting off the summer bringing your A game, because tonight we're bringing you the A game, Joseph Alexander.
Where is he? He's not. He's gone. Where is he, Jack?
I don't know.
Jack.
His screen is black and the audio's off. I don't know what's going on, but
I don't know. Ah, there he is!
yes.
Joseph, unmute your mic. Joseph, unmute your mic. And he's gone. Anyway,
hello.
He'll be
Well,
back.
Hey, we're going to wait for Joseph to come back. We had a little technical glitch there. It happens. But before we get started, a little bit of a bummer for AEW with Jeff Hardy in his third DUI.
Joseph's back.
Oh, there you are.
There he is.
Yes,
welcome,
yes.
sir.
I don't know what happened.
It was probably God.
It was because before I made fun of the voice. That's what it was.
yes, that's what it was. You made fun of the voice, and there you go. You just, I don't know.
Well, now you know, Lewis. Well, Joseph, thank you so much for being here. And like we were briefly talking to you before we went on, and you made a big impression with some of our listeners. So we're really excited to get to spread the word, spread the good word about you, and some of the listeners who may not know you are going to now. We have a really exciting match we're going to be talking about, plus whatever you let us in on top of that. But before we even delve into the present, I just wanted to go back and get a sense of where you're from, because I believe you're a New York guy, but I don't know from what part of New York.
Yeah, so I am from a small town called Middletown, New York. It's right in the 845, the Hudson Valley area. So that's why when the announcers announce me, they say from the 845 New York, because that's kind of like the area code we represent. It also sounds a lot cooler than saying Middletown, New York. Yeah, it's a small town. It's not big, but a very sporty town. It's where most of my background comes from, and it's kind of like where the 845 thing comes from as well. So that's kind of how we were represented. We were a lot of the teams were named after the area code itself, the 845. So yeah, that's just a little bit of the background of where I'm from. Yeah.
Nice. I mean, you seem like a really like lifelong athlete. Just the sense I get from seeing you in the ring and seeing your focus, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So have you been a lifelong athlete? Have you always been into pro wrestling? How'd you get here?
Yeah, so I mean, my earliest memories as a child is really funny. Is pro wrestling, like WrestleMania 19. I think I was about like 2 or 3 years old, but I vividly remember that WrestleMania. Like I remember that so vividly. It's kind of weird. So pro wrestling has definitely been in my life since the dawn of me. In terms of sports, yeah, I did everything. Like every single sport I was always a kid where I just wanted to try everything, no matter what it was. I wanted to do it. I did baseball, soccer, football, basketball, anything you could think of, any sport you could think of, I did it. And I found amateur wrestling towards I would say third grade, and when I found that, I still did and dabbled in other sports, but like I found amateur wrestling, and that stuck with me for the better half of 13, 14 years. So I feel like I found my niche right there.
Nice, because you seem to incorporate a lot of that into your wrestling style, because it seems like you've got a large array of submission maneuvers in your repertoire.
Yeah. So I did amateur wrestling, like I said, for a better half of like 13, 14 years. And it wasn't until I would say like middle school, entering high school, where I joined like a jiu-jitsu gym, and I started learning about the other half of what like shoot style is. I started learning about the Muay Thai, the Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and the no-gi, the gi, like the differences, and just the culture about it in general. I started learning about submission moves, and it helped me in my amateur career, and it helped me, with pro wrestling, kind of putting two and two together. Yeah.
What made you decide to go pro?
So there was a time, well, 2020 happened, and there was a time, after high school, I had just went into college. My last year of high school, I had gotten hurt, where I had blew my knee out, completely, amateur wrestling, and it sucked, and it kind of put a halt on my amateur wrestling career. So I also butted heads with my coach a lot. So kind of left that in the dust, and I wanted to do something else. Again, being a lifelong pro wrestling fan, I was actually in college for broadcast communication, so I wanted to join as being an announcer. That was my thing. I wanted to be a radio show host, or a broadcast announcer, or a sideline reporter, or play-by-play, something where I could get my foot in the door, and later on be a commentary or something for WWE or an AEW or something like that. And then a buddy of mine had found a school that had opened up in Brooklyn at the time of where I was living, and I was like, I guess I could try this and see. I hadn't been active or done any physical activity in the better half of like 3 years after high school. It was like, what, 2020? Yeah. So I was like, all right, we're just going to do it. And that's kind of how I found myself here.
That was going to be in my next question. It is no big secret that your sensei is Logan Black. How did your dynamics? I mean, Logan is a great guy, personal friend of mine, and Jack. Your dynamics. I mean, he took you to a test, and the first time that Jack and I both seen you in the squared circle, your first grind show, and your whole story got to me. And I told Jack, I was like, dude, you got to get him on the show because this cat is unbelievable. His story got to me. And I went right to Logan. I'm like, if this is your kid, if this is one of your students, dude, he took you to the limit. We got to talk to him. First, what was your first impression of Jake, of Logan, and pardon me, and what was it like then wrestling your sensei?
um, my first impression of Logan was actually the first day of class. Is a funny story. The first day of class, I'm kind of like, I didn't buy in. I didn't buy in at all, because I'm like, what is this? It's what am I getting myself into, kind of thing. So I didn't buy in at all, and it's in a gym. So like when the ring is set up, like here's the ring, and to the left is a whole bunch of boxing equipment. So I'm over there, just kind of jabbing around at the boxing equipment and listening, kind of earing in, earing out, and Logan stops practice, and he's like, "Hey, dude, if you want to be here, you gotta want to be here. If not, you can leave." And I was, and it was in that moment where I was just like, all right, yeah, doing this, and I kind of from that day on, I bought in completely. There was not a question of the doubt. You know, I even after that practice, I was so apologetic. I went up to him and I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Like, you know, that's not me. That's not who I am. You know, I'm a hard worker. I promise." And it's like, you know, you could tell people you're a hard worker. You could tell people this. You could tell people that. But you know, it's either put up or shut up, and that's kind of how I took it from there. And after that, I was like, all right, I'm ready to work. I had to kind of brush the cobwebs off of being an athlete and buy in full time. So it was that experience, that first impression I had of Logan that that made me like really buy into this whole pro wrestling thing. And I was like, all right, let's go, let's go.
And did your training with Logan begin in 2020? I just want to make sure I had the timeline right.
It was the summer of 2021. No, it was the winter of 2021, I believe. Yeah, the
Wow.
winter
Okay.
of 2021.
So I mean,
Yeah.
it's wild to me to even think that I don't know how long you consider yourself to be like an active professional, but it seems like you didn't have to train very long before you found yourself in some pretty big wars as a professional wrestler. So how long would you say that your official professional wrestling career has been?
I'll say about a year and about a year and 6 months, year and 7 months now.
Wow, I mean, what an amazing time to begin your career with the pandemic because
That
we've
was
been.
something.
Yeah, because I mean, we've been fortunate to talk to so many people and just hear their stories about, some people really embraced it. Some people it impacted in such a big way that they really struggled with their physical and mental health. It was hard to find a gym. It was hard to keep your head up sometimes. How did it work for you? Was it just one of those things like you just adapt, or how did you feel about your career launching at this time?
Uh, in, in my uh, on the back end of the day, there was a lot of stuff we could have done. It was go to wrestling practice. For me, it was go to wrestling practice and then go to my apartment and chill. So it was so fun I had, and it was also the most I look forward to something throughout the week. I mean, I had moved into an apartment in the city in the back half of the summer of 2021, and I was just like, what am I going to do? Everything's closed down. I kind of did it off of impulse. So I was just, living in New York City with not much to do. And then I found the gym, and I wanted to buy in completely and be there as much as I could. So when there was practice, I was at practice as long as I could be. And when there wasn't, I was not doing much else after that. Yeah.
So do you have like any other passions? I mean, I felt, like obviously you must feel strongly about the communications world in some sense, like you mentioned, but do you have anything else that kind of keeps you going on the side?
Yeah, I still very much love radio. I still love broadcasting. I love other sports outside of professional wrestling. I'm a big advocate in basketball. I still, have somewhat of a dream of pursuing whatever broadcasting outside of when it's all said and done with wrestling. I still think broadcasting still wants to be some sort of analyst, and because I always like to sit and dissect sports, whatever it is. I always like to look at things bigger picture. I don't try to opinionate sports on one side more than the other. I like look at it as like a whole grand scheme of things. So I feel like it's like a very unique outlook on stuff. So that I always had that love for broadcasting. So I still would love to pursue some sort of broadcasting outside of professional wrestling.
Your match at Grind, the first time Jack and I saw you in the ring, you want to tell our audience the story exactly what happened, what captivated my interest in your career, and what also captivated the entire audience, because there was not one person sitting down after everyone learned your story. So, could you give us a lead in into exactly what the story was and exactly what happened?
Yeah. So about, I would say, a month and a half before Grind Antisocial had kicked off, Rip Bison had approached me about getting on the show, and I was ecstatic because I went to not the very first Grind show, I would say the third Grind show, with Logan, and that card was stacked. I believe it was Logan and Ryan Gallione.
Mm.
It was Robert Martyr versus Matt Mikowski, which Martyr being a very good friend of mine. I was so I just watching that card. I was like, this is somewhere I want to be. Like these matches, the quality of these matches, the type of wrestling that we're doing in this promotion is like this is where I want to be. And when I had reached to about being on the show, I was head over heels. I was ecstatic. It was the one place that I kind of put a pinpoint in my short career. Like, okay, if there's somewhere that I'm going to be this much time from now, it's Pro Wrestling Grind. And leading up to Grind, I had a pretty busy schedule. I had pretty busy schedule with some big matches. I had a match against Dustin Waller, which I'll get to because that kind of leads into the Grind match, and then I had a match with Jordan Blade a week after that. So it was a rough schedule heading up, and my match with Flash Waller happens, and I do a calf stomp to him, and I collapsed on the ring, and I was like, "What is going on?" I felt a pain shoot through my leg, and a couple MRIs later, I had torn my meniscus, and that was um, a shot to the gut, to say the least, because it threw everything up in the air. It threw my entire summer up in the air because I didn't know what to do. It was the knee that I had originally had an operation on. So it was even more of a shot to the gut. And it scared the living hell out of me. And I wasn't sure what position I was in. Um, but thankful enough, I went to the doctors a bunch, and they said there was no operation that was needed. Um, I just had to get some rest and put in some work, and that's exactly what I did. I told Rip, listen, I'm gonna be at Antisocial. I'm going to, I'm gonna wrestle Logan. Like I will be there, and I definitely wasn't 100% that night, but I made sure that it damn sure looked like it because I felt like for once in my life there was something that I really, really, really wanted to do, and I was like, of course this is what happened to me, like of course. But then I caught myself like dreading in that, oh, of course, and I was just like, you know what, like, nah, what if this didn't happen to me? Like what, like I could do this, like I could make this, happen. And um yeah, grateful enough I was able to be able to compete that night. And I know it was a very emotional night for myself and Logan because of just how hard I worked to get to that spot, and just how that match went out, and the things we did in that match where it was like, dang, is my leg gonna hold up? But it did. And he shared the story, and everybody kind of felt that moment with us because it just meant so much. It was just
I
so
got
much to me.
goosebumps again. I got goosebumps again just reliving it. I could now that happened to be my very now Delmy and Rip are probably watching right now. And probably, damn you, Lewis. That was my very first grind show. I didn't go to the prior shows because I prior engagements. I know is either I was busy with my other show or something else was going on, and I just or family matters. I just couldn't make it. So Jack was there solo. So not only was that my first grind show that I've ever attended, you were my first grind match, and it was just amazing. I mean, seeing
Appreciate it.
a friend of mine, seeing Logan in the ring, and then seeing you in the ring with him, hearing the story afterwards when the curtain was pulled back, and everyone just stood up and applaud. It was phenomenal. And we all know, as wrestling fans, we all know the first match sets the pace for the night. Kid, you tore the house down, and you absolutely set the pace for the night. And I
I
was just
appreciate it.
like, unbelievable. This was like fantastic. And I told Jack right away, you got to book him. We got to book him. We have to book him.
Yeah,
I
and there,
appreciate
not
it.
only was Lewis genuinely enthusiastic, and he's not exaggerating, but one thing that we always talk about, and we've talked about since the very first Pro Wrestling Grind show, is that those shows have a habit of the best, or maybe not the best, maybe one of, if not the best or strongest matches, is always the opening match. And so when you guys came out, I was like, whoa, like these guys really must believe in you to put you out first, because I think some of the strongest first opening matches I've ever seen at a live show are Pro Wrestling Grind. So it was awesome. I remember after coming home from that show that night, telling my son about you, because I just think that kind of that attitude, like you just talked about, like the winning mindset is so important. And I find like young kids, like my son just turned 15, he's young, but that is so important because it's so easy to feel sorry for yourself and give up and be like, poor
Yeah.
me. Well, I told him about you, and so he's excited to see you. And I saw you briefly at a Blitzkrieg Pro show, and I wanted to go say hi, and I pointed out who you were to my son because we were at the Blitzkrieg show, the last one. But you looked like you were so in the zone, like really, you felt like you were just kind of soaking up everything. That I didn't want to be that annoying fan coming up to you and be like, "Oh, hey," So I left you
Oh,
alone.
I
But
would have been. I would have been.
I actually I had recognized you when you had made mention to it when we had spoke through DM. I had recognized you, and I was just like, man, I know him, and it just kind of being at Blitzkrieg, it was which is another spot that I would like to be at. I was just kind of trying to take in the whole moment of being there. I just try to be grateful, like it's very hard to let these things go over your head. It's like I'm living a dream where 7-year-old me would be flipping from wall to wall to hear things that I'm doing now. So, I just try when I go to wrestling shows, especially a new place that I haven't been before because I was my first Blitz show. I just kind of try to just take it all in, and just be thankful to be there.
yeah, I mean, it
Well,
was obvious to me. Like I would have felt like a ridiculous pain in the ass to come over and talk to you because it just
No,
felt like
not at all. Not at all.
you were in that zone, and I was like, whoa, like it just seemed like you were just really studying it all. And I want to see you at a Blitzkrieg Pro show very soon. So I wasn't the guy who was going to stand in the way of that evening, but I have a feeling it's not going to take long for us to see you spreading your talent all over more of the Northeast companies like Blitzkrieg Pro, especially after they hear about your next match. And again, Lewis and I talked about this briefly, but some of our listeners may not know you're going to be facing the Moonlight Sun, Mike Skyros, at Pro Wrestling Grind on July 1st in East Hampton, Mass.
Yeah. It's me and Mike Skyros, man. I like Mike. It's funny because one of my other trainers, Brother Greatness, had a whole thing with Skyros, this whole obsession with him. So I got to get my lick back for Brother Greatness on behalf.
well, I think now we all know Mike comes out as Moon Knight. Now I do have history with Mike, but maybe you should come out with maybe a villain.
A villain of Moon Knight.
You
See,
know?
I wish
Yeah.
my comic book knowledge was as
Well, you do
up
know
to
you're
par
sitting next to.
as a Logan Black.
No,
Yeah.
hold on. You do know you're next to a comic book artist right there. So we can set you up. Don't you worry. And take a look at the background. We can hook you up. Don't worry about
Yeah, absolutely. I think
it.
like I said, let's keep it under wraps so Mike Skyros doesn't know
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
you're
yeah,
nibbling and
definitely,
dabbling.
definitely. Definitely, for sure. For sure. Jack, next question, please. We're having problems with the comments tonight.
Yeah, what's going on? Well, while you're working on that, you're the wizard. I one thing that I noticed, like the matches that I've seen you in, it seems like Mike Skyros to me is going to be an extremely interesting match because he and you are a similar size. And I don't know like if you have a history with him, but I saw a couple matches where you fought legit Perfect Perkins, and he's a big dude.
Oh
And
yeah.
do you guys have like a rivalry? Because it seems like there's like you guys were going hard, and I think there were at least a couple matches that I've seen you guys up against each
Yeah,
other.
yeah. So me and LPP, yeah, we tend to go at it quite a bit, and it's just kind of like that alpha mindset. You know, he's the perfect athlete, and I'm A game, and it's like, oh man, we're bound to clash. You know, and we've had our battles. We are actually now teaming out in Let's Wrestle as Team T2T representing the school. So yeah, we got to put our differences aside, but it's still that competitive factor is there. Even on the same team, we still try to compete to be better than one another. But it's a healthy kind of competition this time, I promise. But yeah, we do battle quite a bit. And it's kind of helped me prepare for people who are genuinely my size, like Mike Scott.
Oh,
We lost. Yeah, we're having technical difficulties tonight. And Joseph seems to be having difficulties. So, Jack, let's talk about really briefly while we're waiting for Joseph to come back. Let's talk about Matt Hardy and his problems.
well, it's Jeff Hardy who's got the problems,
Jeff
but
Hardy, excuse me. Yes.
Matt
No,
Hardy
Matt Hardy
commented.
has
Yeah, Matt
Matt
Hardy.
Hardy does have problems. If you go to TikTok and watch his wife tortures him. I'm surprised that Matt Hardy is not drinking. My God, this lady puts him through so much stuff. It's hilarious. You really got to check her out on TikTok. I mean, I'm not supporting her. I mean, she does not pay our bills or nothing, but it is so funny of what she does to torment him. So I'm really surprised that Matt Hardy himself is not drinking. But please, Jeff Hardy.
Yeah, Jeff Hardy is suspended without pay from AEW. It's his third
Mhm.
DUI, and he's had a lot of problems. And honestly, the physical pain the guy must be in. It's not like fans aren't sympathetic. I mean, I feel horrible for the guy because he must be racked in pain. It's interesting that, and I'll tell Joseph about more of this when he comes back, but he was talking about his torn meniscus. I just went for my first MRI ever yesterday, and today found out that I have a torn meniscus too. So it's just interesting timing how this worked out. But Jeff Hardy just doesn't seem to break. I mean, the guy has been through so much and seems to have survived it all intact for the most part. But obviously has some serious problems. And I think it makes people look a little differently at some of their judgments against WWE when there was the house show incident where they pulled him aside and wanted to offer him some help. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like AEW is a good place for him to be. And it sounds like they're going to require him to somewhat resolve his situation before they allow him back on TV.
Yeah. And speaking about being back on TV, the A game himself, Joseph Alexander, is back.
I'm so sorry, fellas. So sorry. I don't know. I don't know what's going
It's
on with
fine.
the.
We're having technical difficulties. We're not getting many comments tonight. Usually every so often it's through Twitter. But I don't know what's going on. And one evening I had to actually piggyback comments, if you remember, Jack. So it could be something going on with the program. I don't know. Jack,
Yeah.
what were you going to talk about?
Yeah, it seems like there's a Facebook issue, but Joseph, I was going to tell you in a totally like really minor aside. I just felt like I was at the doctor's today and felt like the timing was incredible because I knew you were going to be on tonight. I know a little bit about your injury story that you just told, and I had my first MRI ever yesterday and found out today that I've torn my meniscus too. And so I just thought, like, how funny is that? I mean, it's not
I
bad
think
enough
you
to
did it on purpose.
it's not bad enough to require surgery, luckily. But I just thought, like, how strange is that? Out of
Hey,
all-
that's a coincidence. Because Joseph didn't have to require surgery either. I think you're
Right.
just making that shit up. You're just making that shit up to be popular with the cool kids.
Trying to be sympathetic, right? Trying
yes,
Yeah,
to
that's what
trying
he's
to be
trying to
paid.
empathize.
do.
Yeah. Man,
He's trying to be one of the cool
it's an
kids.
interesting injury because what I had done originally to my knee is that I had a hole in my kneecap about the size of this. About the size of a nickel, whole size in my kneecap when I was 17 years old. And I had to do something where it was called the Oates procedure. And what they do is they take a little piece of cartilage from under your patella and they plug the hole in the kneecap with that. So I guess with that being done, it kind of left the other parts of my knee a little bit more vulnerable. So
Yeah, that's a bummer. Well, I mean, it's funny that you said that you weren't 100% at the grind show, because obviously after hearing the story, it's understandable, but there wasn't a single person in the room who would have thought that hadn't you not said that. You seem like you were 100%.
yeah, it also, just being the nerves and kind of just being behind the door. I won't say the curtain because it's like two doors, but being behind the door and I mean, I'm in a locker room with AG and Anthony Henry and JD Drake and the Saito brothers, and I'm like, no pun intended, if I don't bring my A game tonight, it's curtains for me. And that's kind of how I felt. I needed to mask whatever pain I was in. I needed to kind of just bite my teeth and just go out there and put on a match. And that's exactly where my mind was at, kind of the whole day leading up to it, even the day of, and just right behind the doors. Like I said, it was very much like, listen, I was still having struggles doing a full squat. I was still having struggles, sprinting up and down stairs. It was, it's still a battle to this day. You deal with soreness and setbacks, and it sucks. But I knew that I had to muster up the courage and really get out there, because I'm on a card. I'm in the locker room with some of the who's who in wrestling today, and I'm not going to sit there and not have this opportunity. I can't let it pass me by. So that was kind of like my mindset going into the whole entire thing.
Yeah, it was an incredible debut because, like you said, there's an embarrassment of riches, not only in the New England wrestling, scene, but the pro wrestling grind scene. The guys who you just mentioned, we got Jay Freddy, of course, Logan Black, Big Kaiju. There's been so many guys who are just top notch, who are in and out of there. And
Right.
You were delivering, like, I think you did like a belly to back suplex to Logan at one point. Like, that was incredible. He's no small dude. He's like 250 ish, right? I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, I won't. I won't guesstimate. I won't guesstimate his weight, because then I'll end up doing some cardio next week if he listens.
I'll take the heat. Yeah, but suffice to say, he's a big dude, and
right. Fair enough.
You doing it to Mike Skyros would certainly be impressive, but it's a different level doing it to someone his size. And I mean, even like I said, when you were fighting Perfect, I mean, that was insane. Some of the stuff you guys were doing, and you were throwing him around, and he's gigantic. I took my girlfriend's son to his first indie show. We went to one of the Beyond shows, and he was in the opening match, and my girlfriend's son looked over at me and be like, well, these guys are really big. And he wasn't expecting it. And so, I mean, seeing you in the ring with somebody like that, and not only hold your own, but like throwing them all over the place, is really impressive. And then on top of knowing the status of your knee, it just goes to show, the guts that were on full display that night. And I think now that the grind audience knows you, they're going to be really pumped to see Mike Skyros, because both of you, this will be your second match for both of you at the grind in the green ring.
Yeah. I think I think Skyros definitely has a chip on his shoulder. Huckabee is no walk in the park. So you throw everything in the kitchen sink, but Travis Huckabee is a student of the game. He'll figure it out, and he did. And I think that kind of Skyros kind of sees this as an opportunity to put his stamp on something, and I see it the same exact way. I see it as an opportunity. I think it means a little bit more for me, just because it's like, Mike Skyros is a name that it rings a bell. And I think with A Game, it's like, it doesn't resonate yet. I think it doesn't ring that bell just yet. And I think picking up a win against Skyros, solidifying and cementing myself in that grind roster. I think that will start to make a little bit of waves and spread that A game name a little bit more.
Where did the name A game come from?
Oh, this is a funny story too. So I was watching. I won't give out the specific wrestler, but I was watching a promo. I think like maybe 2-3 weeks after I started training. And I didn't have no gimmick idea or anything of the sorts. I kind of just was going to be like, I'm going to be the amateur wrestling guy. I'm going to be Kurt Angle. And that was my like thing. And Logan was like, hey, it's about kind of adding the originality, kind of putting your pizzazz on things and making things outside the box, changing things. And I had listened to a promo where said person had mentioned, being on your A game, this, that, and the third. And then I had watched another promo, and it was like, this person had said, hey, if you don't bring your A game, you're done. And I was just like, all right, like, where do we draw the line? Like, what is A game exactly? What do people think when they think of A game? There's no face. You don't put a face to A game. You don't, you just say A game and you automatically think, oh, that's the best version of yourself. And I was like, well, what if people could put a face to A game? What if you said A game and then you say MJ, you think Michael Jordan, you say OBJ, you think of Odell. And I was just like, well, if you said A game and you looked at it, you thought of Joseph Alexander, what was that? And that's kind of how that came to be for me. And I was just, it stuck.
When I think MJ, I think Mary Jane from Spider-Man.
And to each his own.
I was kind of lost when you said MJ. I'm like, oh, Mary Jane. You said Michael Jordan. I was like, who? And then it clicked. So I was kind of lost there.
Lord!
But the point still stands because you put a face to it, right?
Yeah. Okay. I was like MJ. Oh, Mary Jane Watson. Still staticky. Do I sound staticky to you guys?
Your microphone, maybe it's just the placement of your microphone.
Okay, because that's why I switched mics and everything.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know. All right.
So I had a question for you about your gear. Do you feel like you've settled on your look and your colors? Because like I always associate you with like a kind of a monochromatic gray, black, and white. Like what is your intention there? Is it just like you're just trying stuff out, or are you set on those colors?
So the gear is originally kind of like a nod to an anime that I watched called Attack on Titan, which is one of like my favorites. I'm a big anime watcher, but I'm not like a big like comic book guy. It's two different alleyways for me. But yeah, I've always so like my first gear that I ever did was purple and yellow, which were the Los Angeles Lakers color, which I have giant Kobe Bryant poster right there because that was like my idol growing up. So I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna have that gear, and then I had it, and it was just like it just didn't feel like me, It just felt like I was kind of like doing something. And the Attack on Titan gear for me, it just meant that like I'm going into war. This is this gear right here. Like when I put this on, when I put the singlets up, and when I take the straps down, and I'm about to suplex somebody on their head, it's like that means we're going into war. Like this is a battle. This is a fight, and this is what it's supposed to be. And I think when I first put those threads on, and I first had my first match in that gear, I was like, yeah, this fits me more, and I think it helps me pop out more. Yes, I exactly, and it's like there's a certain scene where the troops are about to go out to die essentially, and they're just kind of getting prepared for that, and it's like, man, you go out to that ring against a Logan Black, against a OPP, you got to be prepared for what's to come. it goes the same for all the other wrestlers. It's you got to be prepared for what's to come out there. So I guess like when I put that gear on, it's kind of how that feels, and it feels like me.
Nice. That's cool. I mean, I feel like it works for you. I know the purple and yellow gear you're talking about, and as much as I like the design, I can see what you're saying. Like if it just doesn't gel for you, then it doesn't make sense, despite it looking cool. And I haven't seen you do a lot of promo work, but do you feel that your work in your background in communications gives you maybe an advantage in terms of promos? Like when, let's say, for instance, you end up doing some work with a company where there are a lot of promos. Like, do you feel like that gives you an edge?
Um, I've also, like I said, I tried everything as a kid. So I also did a bunch of acting as well. When I was younger, I did acting for better half of like 11, 12 years before I said stop and did wrestling. I did Trainwreck, which is a movie with LeBron James. I did Orange is the New Black a couple times. I did
Wow.
NCIS. Yeah, so I was doing a couple acting stints, and I just think with promos, right now I'm just trying to kind of get creative with myself specifically, and kind of implement you know me into everyday situations, but like what would A Game put himself into these situations for? And I would like to like the promo I did for Grind against Logan, essentially was going to be a 30 for 30 documentary about teacher versus student, until it wasn't, until the static hit, and it was very monotone. It was very about, this is important to me, this means something to me. We're not doing a 30 for 30 documentary. We're not documenting my journey back from injury. Like, no man, it's time to go. Like I want to wrestle. But there's always room for that. Like there's I think it also depends on, like you said, the promotion, and also who you're up against. You could put a very hilariously well put promo against somebody, and then the next company will want you to put out a very straightforward, to the point, point blank promo, and you just got to be adaptable.
Right, right. And it seems like you're very strong in that area. I just feel like everything you've said tonight demonstrates a really positive winning mentality. So I feel like you're going to be one of those guys who can be whatever the company needs you to be, and excel at it. So where do you see yourself being? Like, so for instance, like, I don't know if you have a certain country you want to go to, a certain company you want to work for. Selfishly, as a fan, I want to see you at Blitzkrieg. I want to see you at Beyond. But what are your goals, like short term and long term, in pro wrestling?
So I originally did a show at Black Label Pro, where I was able to get on the pre-show, which was a very cool opportunity. Just recently, that was 2 weeks ago, and honestly, up until then, I was very big on just like, when things settle in, and the train starts moving, I want to go to Japan. Like Japan is where I just want to spend some time, and just embrace the culture, but also change the culture, and make it my own type of thing. But then there was a moment where I had met like 10-15% of like the Impact roster at Black Label Pro, and a bunch of those matches that they had, and just seeing their demeanor, and seeing them lock in, get in the zone, like how I get in the zone, and kind of get into, like seeing Chris Bay in the back being Chris Bay before he has to go out to that curtain and be Chris Bay, seeing that, seeing Trey Miguel lock in, get into the zone, being Trey Miguel before he has to go out into that curtain and be Trey Miguel, like seeing them have the same demeanor. I don't want to say mindset, and speak for people that I don't necessarily know, but I just having the same demeanor, having that same mentality per se. It just made me feel like, okay, like Impact is somewhere that I definitely will want to surround myself, because seeing people with that same demeanor kind of makes me feel like that's something I could get with. That's an environment that would help push me to get to another level that maybe I'm not at right now. And being around that environment was very inspiring as well. Just because I think for the better, if you're not challenged, being somewhere, if you're not challenged, if you're not the smartest person in the room, when you walk in, then if you are the smartest person in the room when you walk in, then like that's a problem. You should always be challenged. You should always try to have a edge to see if you could get better. And I think like when I was in the locker room and I was changing into my gear, there was a little bit of nerve settling in because I'm seeing Jake something who's a who's a tank, like who's a tank, and I'm seeing Chris Bay put on all the Bullet Club gear, and I'm seeing Trey Miguel, Speedball Mike Bailey, and I'm seeing all these people who are in their element. This is their zone. The room was theirs, and I felt like I was being challenged, and I was like, I this is somewhere. If Impact is like that, it's somewhere that I would want to be, just because I need to embrace myself. I'm somebody that I see deep waters and I just want to swim farther, and that's just kind of me. Like I love to drown myself neck deep in the deep waters because I want to see if I could sink or swim. When I amateur wrestled, and I'm sorry, I'm like derailing, but when I
No,
amateur
not
wrestled,
not at all, dude. I tell you what, I seen you work. I listened to you talk, kid. You can do it. I mean, Jack, I'm like totally breaking my character here. Jack, hopefully you agree with me, or I think you will.
It's a
Listening to you
no-brainer. I
talk,
mean, it's clear as
I
day.
know. It's like even while I was changing headsets, I was still listening in, listening to you talk, listening to your motivation, seeing your ethic in the ring, seeing what you can do in the ring. Kid, you got it, man. I mean, you were only
appreciate it.
in this business for a little over a year and you are where you are at. You are a natural. Okay. And now Jack and I had a few people on the show that's been in this business for a short amount of time and skyrocketed already. You are there. You are a natural. You put your mind to it, the universe is going to give this to you. And kid, you got it. I'm 100%. I'm not just saying that blowing smoke or nothing like this. Seeing you work, watching your stuff, and finding your stuff online and seeing it in person, kid, you magic in a bottle
I
for sure.
appreciate it. I genuinely appreciate it, man.
I'll take
Like I
50%.
was. Uh, I told you after the Skyros match, we'll talk, but we got to keep that under wraps. we got, but to kind of put a bow on it, like during my amateur career, I wasn't labeled as a hard worker. I was labeled as a quitter. I was labeled as like a prima donna, a crybaby, a dramatic person. Like I was labeled as almost everything negative as you could speak on it. And when I decided to become a pro wrestler, I was like, I won't. No matter what I do, nobody will ever be able to look me in my face and say that I didn't work for this. And that's something that I promised myself since day one. And that's just been my mentality moving forward. So that when I saw the demeanor of like everybody at Black Label and all the Impact guys, I was like, man, like Impact will be somewhere where I want to go because that's somewhere where I feel like I will be challenged, truthfully.
And from a fan perspective, let me just say, I would love to see you and Speedball Mike Bailey one-on-one. That would be unbelievable. Do you have like a dream opponent who's currently working?
Yeah, Alec Price for sure.
Yeah. Oh my God, that would be incredible.
Alec Price for sure.
Definitely.
Alec Price for sure. I mean, me and Alec, our buddies, we're kind of butting heads right now because I'm a big Warriors guy. He's a big Boston guy. So we're kind of butting heads right now. But yeah, Alec Price for sure. I mean, he's levels of beyond everybody, and that's no disrespect to nobody in the business right now. But I think he's the best in the world right now. Truthfully.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, like I see people work on TV. I see people work on live shows and stuff. But I mean, the emotion that he brings out of me personally as a fan, not just as a wrestler or something, but like as a fan, I don't, it's just he's levels above.
Did you get to see his match against Speedball at Blitzkrieg?
I did. That was I saw his match at Blitz against Speedball, and then I saw his match at Black Label against Speedball, and like both had me like sweating under my armpits profusely. Like he's a man. He's on a different level.
Wow, that would be amazing.
What promotion do you want to work for that you haven't worked for yet?
I've got like I said, Blitz, absolutely, that I haven't gotten to do. I like a lot of what's going on the Beyond Wrestling Open kind of scale as well. It's it's just getting out there is also a drive to say the least. I like a lot of what Uncharted Territory is doing with like Action, New South, and subs. Down South is definitely somewhere I want to touch down as well. Yeah, and Limitless, 100%. I mean, their shows, their energy, that stuff is like it's unmatched. I love seeing stories get put together, and then like the payoff being so big and the crowd knowing the payoff is so big. So I think like Limitless does that so well with their promo work, their hype packages, and then when the crowd, you hear them, and it's just like it's nothing better, man, when like something is supposed to go good and then it goes good, and it's like the reaction it gets is so like validated. That's kind of how like I see Limitless. Yeah.
All right, Jack, I'm going to steal a question that you usually ask, and I forgot it. My God. Oh my God. Anyways, usually I ask what my favorite new question is, what's it like for you to go out and see someone holding up a sign with your name on it for a sign? Jack has a question that he likes to ask all the time, and I was going to ask you, but then I forgot what my question was going to be. So, Jack, continue, please.
Well, we're running out of time, so I think
I know I wanted to ask a question, but now.
Well, you think. I'm going to kind of put the bow on this because I want to make sure that we give you some time to let our listeners know about where can we see you over the course of the next month or two. I mean, we know that East Hampton, Mass on July 1st, we're going to see you at Pro Wrestling Grind against Mike Skyros. You guys are going to tear the house down. We know that. Is there anything else that you can tell us about?
Yeah, I'm doing a big show called Art of War for well, it's called Welcome to War, so I apologize, for Battle Club Pro next weekend on Juneteenth. Just celebrating the history of Juneteenth and what it means for me as an Afro Latino. So that's something big for me as well. I just did a show for IWW that was on the 10th. Yes, that was on the 10th, and when that comes out on IWTV, you guys have to see that. It was a really good match against myself and the Money Dragon Angelo Carter. I have Paradigm Pro Wrestling on July 15th as well. Doing some UWI stuff, UWFI stuff with them, which I really enjoyed doing. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, and then the summer, wherever else the wind takes me this summer, I would definitely be adjourning to.
Are you mostly in the New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut area for most of the summer? I just don't know the locations of all the matches.
Yeah, so Battle Club would be in New York. That would be in New York. Paradigm is in Indiana, so that's out Midwest. Pro Wrestling Grind, of course, being at the Pulaski, so that being in Mass. Yeah, so I'm very New York, Northeast centered right now for most of the summer.
Nice.
And I have on August 13th to plug in Wrestlers Lab / IWW. That's going to be in Pittsburgh, so that's going to be fun.
Nice. Do you know who you're facing there yet?
I don't, but it's going to be a great show. I'm sure of it. Pittsburgh is a lot of fun. I went to the Joy show over there, which is another promotion that's a lot of fun too.
Nice. I would also, as a fan, just love to suggest to any promoter who's listening that you versus Facade would be another dream match.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
I like
it would
stuff
be
too, yeah.
it would be a dream match, and I still cannot remember what I would. Jack, what are some of the questions that you?
Well, keep thinking. I have one more question because,
Yeah.
again, I know your career is so young, but have you had any intergender matches against different women? And if so, what was your favorite match? And if not, who would you most like to face? You mentioned Impact. I'd love to see you against Jordan Grace.
Ah,
Oh
me
yeah,
too.
yeah.
I would like to
absolutely.
wrestle Jordan Grace.
So I had I had one intergender match, which was a tag match against the Network, which is Angelo Carter and Indigo. I am also going to be one this weekend on Juneteenth. It's going to be myself and Jordan Blade teaming up against Rembrandt and Cosmic. So that's another intergender match. But in terms of singles matches, I have not yet. But I definitely do because I have a good list of people that I would love to wrestle. Like one of my former trainers, Willow, is definitely up there. I love what she's doing right now. Trisha Dora, Kylie Ray. Oh my God!
Yeah.
Like the list goes on. Like they're freaking killing it right now, and definitely a bunch of dream matches for that too.
Wow, they all sound incredible. I would be happy to be in the front row for any of those shows. And if anyone
Are you
beyond
asking
us
for free
listening,
tickets?
no, you're
Oh.
the free ticket moocher. If anyone at Beyond is listening, you got to book Joseph Alexander. Oh my God, like there's all these people he just mentioned are often at Beyond, like Chris Statlander, Trisha Dora. I mean, it goes on and on. Yeah.
Like
that-
number
Trish,
2.
I've seen.
Number 5. He's just naming all my wives: Jordan Grace, Chris Statlander. Let's keep going, Asuka. No.
right.
I still can't remember the question.
Okay, well, you're just about out of time, Lewis. So you better
Yes,
come
I
up with
know.
something quick.
No, never mind. Forget it. Can't remember. I'll remember when I wake up.
Okay, well, that's not going to do us any good tonight.
No, it's not. No,
But we're overjoyed that you were here tonight, and I don't know if Lewis will
appreciate it.
actually make it to the Pro Wrestling Grind show. I will be there, so selfishly looking forward to seeing you and Mike Skyros tear it up. There's a lot of other good stuff on the show. I know Rip and PVV are going to be going at it, and
Yeah, that's
there's going to be a lot of hard hitting going on in that match.
Yeah.
And those guardrails, watch out for the guardrails at Pro Wrestling Grind. I know you've had a few little interactions, but those guardrails are vicious and they look brand new and shiny, but those things get demolished at shows. They just, for some reason, people like to throw people into the guardrails more than any other indie show I've ever been to. So if Mike Skyros gets you on the outside, just, having been to all those shows, watch yourself.
Well, I was trained by someone that knows a thing or two about the outside. So I think I could hold my ground out there.
Yes, you've certainly proven that. Lewis is silent. Lewis, for once you're silent. Something's going on there, buddy.
Yeah, I think the mic.
I think I willed it to happen. Let Lewis be quiet.
Hey.
There you are.
Doe. Oh, what the?
All right. Well, look, Lewis, you're having all kinds of problems over there, but
Yes, I am.
But everyone who's listening, make sure you get to a Pro Wrestling Grind show, specifically the one on July 1st if you're in the New England area, and stop by, see Joseph Alexander, the A Game, pick up some of his merch. And this guy, like, you're getting on the ground floor here, getting to know this guy if you weren't aware of him before. And if you were, we're going to see you on Friday at the Grind on July 1st. So really appreciate your time. And if you don't mind hanging for 1 minute, I just wanted to make sure I got to say a quick goodbye to you before we
absolutely
get out of here. But I wanted to remind everyone, we have a couple guests. We already talked about Perry Von Vicious going up against Rip Bison. Perry Von Vicious is going to be one of our guests in July. And coming up in 2 weeks, we're going to have our first tag team on the show simultaneously. Miracle Generation are going to be here on the 28th. And we're really pumped to talk to those guys. My son is super thrilled that they're getting a tag team title match at Blitzkrieg. So he wants to hear them come on the show because he's hoping that they take the titles at Blitz. So in the meantime, you can find us at Faces and Heels on Facebook, Faces and Heels Podcast on Instagram, and you can find me on patreon.com. Just look up Jack Purcell. All of my original artwork for both comics and pro wrestling is going to be there. My piece I'm working on for Blitzkrieg for the Luau, the 4th annual, it's got 8 different wrestlers, including Miracle Generation on it, and that's the only place you can see it unless you see me at a show. So also you can find me at Jack Purcell Inc. on Facebook and Instagram. And Lewis, you got to tell everybody about YouTube. They got to give us a subscribe.
You can find me on the Angry Geek Show every Monday night with that Wonder Woman, Jamie Dolan, and a very special guest each and every Monday night. You can also find me every Tuesday night right here with Ink Slinging Jack Purcell, my brother from another mother, the tag team partner like no other. And you can find both of those fabulous shows on Greenfield Public Access, South Hadley Public Access, Warren Public Access, and all these other public access TV shows coming soon. Plus, you can find us on the Angry Geek Show YouTube channel. Go over there, click it, and watch it. Now, at the very moment, you can find the Faces and Heels information on the Angry Geek Show website. Faces and Heels website will be up shortly, but you can find all these shows. If you can't find them anywhere else, you can also find them live streaming on the Angry Geek Show website. I'm Lewis. That's Jack. That's the A-game, Joseph Alexander. Make sure you stop by and see this kid. He is magic in a bottle. Go and see him wrestle and tell him that we sent you. We'll see you guys next week.
This has been an Earplug Podcast presentation. Found on earplugpod-cast.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and wherever